Well, after a big SummerSlam weekend, we are back. Thanks again for watching us. We are Top Rope Takes. I'm Jason Marcus along with Willie Thrill. Will, I have been so excited for wrestling this week. I can't remember the last time I have been this excited to watch a Raw, to watch a SmackDown. We're going to get all into it. What a SummerSlam weekend. How are you?
I'm doing great. You're right. This was a jam-packed wrestling weekend. We got so much to talk about. I'm ready to just dive right into it, Jason.
Let's do it. I think even though we had Monday Night Raw last night and he wasn't on the show, I still think the headline of everything is the return of the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns. I don't think it was a shock by any means to anybody, but the moment I think lived up to the hype. His return during the main event of SummerSlam to essentially, I wouldn't even say help Cody Rhodes, but to attack Solo Sikoa and inadvertently give the assist to Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes defeats Solo in the Bloodline Rules match to retain the undisputed WWE Championship. I thought it was perfect. What were your thoughts on this whole match, this whole event, Roman's return, everything?
Well, I have my own personal story behind this for the
Okay,
main
great.
event. Um, Building up to this week, I knew I had this big. We were talking about it off air. I had this big triathlon to set up and do. It's kind of what my actual job is. I
Yeah,
don't get paid off this podcast. I wish
not
I did.
yet.
Not yet. But so I knew I had to wake up at 4 in the morning on Sunday. So I was joking with my friends, like, oh man, I'm gonna miss the return of Roman Reigns. And we were joking, like, oh, you think he's returning, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I fell asleep during the beginning entrance of Damian Priest and Gunther.
Okay.
So I was fast asleep. I woke up to the reaction of the crowd when the Roman Reigns
Wow.
returned. And I'm like, what just happened? I see Roman walking out. I'm like, oh my God, it's Roman Reigns. And then I just immediately fell back asleep because I was so tired and I knew I had to wake
Yeah.
up early in the morning. So I went back the next day after I was done with work and the triathlon and watched both of those matches back. And man, this was just such an awesome return. I do think the match itself, this was kind of like a bootleg version of the Mania match
Oh, it's a
where
copy
you,
paste.
yeah, the bloodline rules. I thought it was entertaining having, the music hit, Kevin
Yeah.
Owens, Randy Orton coming out. They kind of neutralized GOD. Then you had Jacob Fatu come out, do his thing. Kind of looked like he got hurt. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people are speculating whether or not, he was just working everyone or if he actually has an injury, but it played in well because then you just had Solo and Cody laid out and then the music hits. This new music hits like this
Yeah.
crazy drum fill, insane music.
I like the
Roman
old one
Reigns
better
coming out.
personally. Hopefully it'll grow on me though.
Yeah, I think this one's like definitely more dramatic. Like it's
Yeah.
over the top. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see how it grows. I mean, because when the original entrance change happened, I was like, "Ooh, I don't know about this," but then it became like one of my favorite entrances
Yeah.
in WWE. So I think this one will grow on me. I do like the drama of it, but it was weird initially hearing it, being like, "Oh, this is something."
Yeah.
So Roman comes out, and man, when he just walks down to that ring, dude, when he gets in the ring, just Superman punches Solo, like not even a thought. There wasn't like a tease of like, oh, am I
Right.
going to hit
Who's
Cody? Am I going to hit Solo? No, boom, Superman punch, gets in the corner, and you see the crowd stand up, do the biggest ooh ah you've ever heard in your life. And all I could think of was this is what WWE wanted a decade ago
Yep.
when they were like, we need Roman Reigns to be a babyface. We finally, I think the culmination of the last 10 years happened at SummerSlam when we saw Roman Reigns return and take out the fake tribal chief. As someone had in the crowd, Timu tribal chief or Timu bloodline.
Yeah.
I love that sign. This was just amazing. It's great to have Roman Reigns come back. He obviously had the OTC shirt, and you mentioned original tribal chief. I think there's could be multiple meanings.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like the OC when they were like the original club, but they're also the official club and the only club. I would
Yeah.
be interested to see if he's like maybe he's the official tribal chief. He is the only tribal chief. That would be also a great meaning for the OTC. But I think
Yeah.
original is what people are jumping to, and I think that's a fair.
So my thing is, I that was not my original, ironically, not my original thought. I thought it was only tribal chief or something along those lines. The only reason I think it is they're going for original is because that's what one of the commentators said, and I feel
Okay.
like
Yeah.
So
Well, was it Pat though? Because I feel like Pat just be
no, no,
spitting.
no, no.
Okay.
It was like I think it was Jackie Redmond on the post show.
Oh, Jackie did. Yeah, you're right.
So I kind of think that was that's why I think that's what their intention is.
Okay.
But regardless, yes, quite the full circle moment for Roman Reigns here, who's finally the most over babyface in the company after 10 years of trying to be. Um, it was a great moment. I don't know where they go from here though. Obviously, Roman and Solo are gonna have a huge bloodline story that's probably gonna take us throughout the rest of the calendar year. Um, I don't know like where Roman gets in the ring for the first time because it's not going to be on a random episode of SmackDown. So it's going to be on a big show. So they're going to have to drag it out a little bit. There's going to be a lot of mini milestones before we get Roman Solo one-on-one. I don't think it's happening at Berlin in 3 weeks. Where did you have an initial guess on where they drag this out to?
I'm still because there's so many elements that need to play out too. Like, where's Paul Heyman? I'm surprised we didn't see
Yeah,
Paul Heyman come out there. What's going on with Jimmy Uso? He still has to return
yeah,
as well. We also have to mention, since we're talking about bloodline stuff, on SmackDown, we had new tag team champions, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu, defeating
right.
DIY. So how does that play into this whole bloodline storyline? I am curious to see how long this plays out. I do think Roman's return is huge for SmackDown because
Oh, 100%.
I think SmackDown is probably like the weakest weekly show in
Raw's
wrestling
great.
right now. I like
Yeah,
Raw. I like Dynamite is exciting. NXT has like a bolt of energy to it.
yeah.
SmackDown feels a little weak right now, so I'm not even counting Collision and Rampage. Those are
No,
like
they're
there's like C levels or below.
yeah.
But I'm talking about like the main shows. SmackDown feels like the weakest, but now with Roman Reigns back, I'm hoping they get to like that Bloodline 2022, 2023 kind of
Yeah,
era of storytelling.
100% agree. I do think that this goes all the way minimum till November. Where they announced War Games is going to be in Vancouver. It's 100% you're getting a Bloodline big match there. So at least it's getting to the end of November. I think it goes through the end of the year, probably through the Royal Rumble. Um,
Do you think they hold it off till WrestleMania, or do you think they're going to
Roman
go
and
bigger?
Solo, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. They
Okay.
can't. They can't.
What's
Um,
the because like there's a lot of things you could do with Roman at WrestleMania now. Like you could if you I don't think people would love if they held off Roman Solo at Mania. I think you'd want to do like either Roman Cody 3, which is pretty interesting, or you do the Roman Rock match, which I think is another like
I
probably
think
the
you're.
more likely
I think you're
direction.
getting Roman Rocket at Vegas in WrestleMania 41, the match they wanted to do last year. And I think it's going to be even bigger because Rock's going to be the final boss heel and Roman's going to be the biggest babyface in the company.
Which is how it should be.
Yes. Um, I think you're getting Roman Solo. If I had to guess, I think you're going to get Roman Solo for the first time at Bad Blood. And
Okay,
then
I
I
could see
think,
that. Yeah.
and then I, in October. And then I think, with a bunch of, like tag matches, 6-man tags, whatever's in before then. And then, I think you're getting the full Bloodline War Games match in Survivor Series.
Yeah, I see that happening too. You did bring up a great question though. Where does this leave Cody? And I think that title scene is kind of wide open right
Yeah,
now.
especially and we'll get to this, but we assumed Cody's next challenger was going to be Randy Orton, and that is no longer the case. Um, Still going to happen at some point down the road. I'm very confident in that, but they're holding off on it for a reason. So what does Cody do in the interim? I don't. Obviously, Roman's tied up. Is it just straight up Kevin Owens?
Right.
You
That's the
know?
only guy that really sticks out to me. And it's like that kind of feels forced at this
Yeah,
point if you just have Kevin Owens turn and be like, I'm going to go after you, Cody. I think they could maybe do like a face versus face Owens versus Cody that could then lead into a heel turn.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, besides Owens, there's really no one that like
There's not a
sticks
lot of
out as
heels.
like, yeah, that could really go after Cody. Do you really do like Carmelo Hayes? Like, I don't like
Mm,
that just seems like kind of a filler match. Like,
Andrade, like nah.
exactly. All these guys feel like filler for Cody, but I guess you don't really need like a major
Yeah,
Cody storyline right now. You probably just need something to tide Cody over until he can face another member of the bloodline. So
honestly,
we'll see.
the biggest heel on the SmackDown roster, not part of the bloodline, is Logan Paul.
Right. But
So
we'll get to that because I'm curious about that too.
So anyway, I don't know where Cody goes from here. We got to watch SmackDown to tune in. But there was a lot that happened at SummerSlam. Obviously, we talked about the big return of Roman Reigns. We had 4 new champions crowned at SummerSlam. Let's start off with the new United States champion, LA Knight, defeating the aforementioned Logan Paul to win his first singles title in WWE. Again, another one that I think a lot of people were happy to see, but a lot of people saw coming. Happy for LA Knight. It was definitely needed. He needed the strap here. Thought it was a good match. Logan Paul is so impressive. He is so much better than he has any right to be at this stage of his career. That springboard moonsault to the outside was truly the most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen. It was great. Happy for LA Knight though. It was a great match.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. That springboard moonsault to the outside was one of the highlights of the show. It was just
Yeah,
so amazing.
yeah,
And when we made the prediction, I picked LA Knight, but I did think it was going to be more of a toss up. I think later on in the week, because of some things Logan Paul
yeah.
said, it became more obvious that like, okay, they're probably giving it to LA Knight. I just to talk about like the actual match beforehand when Logan Paul came out, Brown's colors.
Mm.
Some my friend actually thought Logan Paul was going to get cheered in Cleveland. I was like, it's
I
going
thought
to
it was
be.
possible.
It was possible, but I was like, it's going to be 50-50. Like, you're never going to
Yeah,
get the full Logan Paul being cheered anywhere. I
yeah,
feel like, unless he like pays for people to
yeah.
sit in the
He's such a
crowd.
good heel though.
Right. And I feel like it would have been weird if he was cheer or they treated it like he was a baby face and they made LA Knight the heel. That just didn't seem like it
No.
would work. He comes out and there's a security guard who unveils himself as the other dickhead from Cleveland, Machine Gun Kelly,
Yeah,
MGK, making his return to
yeah.
WWE. Was this the first time we've seen him since the Kevin Owens powerbomb all those years ago, or he's probably appeared
I
sometime in
don't think
between?
so. I think so. I don't think so. I don't know if he was on WWE television, but I do know that 2 years ago, I think, he was a downloadable character in a 2K game. So
Okay,
I'm assuming in promotion for that he did something.
he probably did. He appears on WWE often, and it was funny because when they unveiled him, he's from Cleveland, so there's like an initial yeah, and then
Yeah.
he like daps up Logan Paul, and everyone's like, oh no, like
Yeah,
oh
I thought
why
it was great.
MGK?
I was kind of happy that he was there just because I don't know. Logan's got so many famous friends, I guess.
Oh, he was perfect. Like the fact,
mm,
like if you're
mm,
gonna get another dickhead from Cleveland, and you're just gonna
yeah,
have the two biggest like absolute twats on the
mm,
planet
yeah,
to be side by side, like it's perfect. It's the ultimate heat for people watching at home. But then Cleveland just being like, "Damn, this is who's representing us right now."
right.
It's like I thought it was great, and MGK like whenever he's in WWE, no matter what I think about him, like he is a great performer. He adds to
Yes,
that like
he's a
he
good
can
heel
really play
too.
like he's just a natural at being unlikable. So it's
Yeah,
perfect for WWE and that whole situation. LA Knight finally getting his moment. I'm glad that he has it. I personally, because you mentioned Logan Paul being the biggest heel, and like maybe that's the direction they do another rematch with
mm,
Cody and Logan. I think because of what we know, I think Logan Paul kind of needs to take a step back. Give him a
yeah,
little break here. I think
yeah.
maybe you could have him return around WrestleMania season, maybe for the Royal Rumble. But if you
I
want to
think
bring him
that's
back
too
for like
long. I don't think. I think they
Survivor
need.
Series, they don't need Logan Paul. Like he's not a big ratings mover. He did the thing with the United States Championship, great. Like I don't think you, and especially with Roman being back, like come on, like you don't really need Logan Paul to kind of carry these SmackDown shows. You can bring him back earlier if you have a good program for him, but I just don't know what that program would be on
Yeah,
SmackDown right now. But we'll have to see.
yeah. I don't necessarily think it's they need Logan Paul because Logan Paul is the problem is it's they don't have a lot of other options. Is what I'm saying. Like I said, he's the biggest heel on SmackDown, not in the Bloodline. So I don't know. I personally don't see. I see him taking a little bit of a break, but not too long. I I think he's at the next big show. Um,
You think he's at Berlin?
Not
Or are you talking
necessarily
about the big
Berlin,
show? You're talking
but
about like
like
War
Berlin
Games?
kind of feels like one of those transitional shows. They're gonna do whatever they can to make it feel big, but like Bad Blood, in my opinion, and Bad Blood Survivor Series kind of feel like their next big like where they're really pushing it. So I would expect him to be at both of those shows.
Yeah, I mean, they also need a baby face to kind of like that's up and coming
Yeah.
that'll come in, and then Logan Paul can kind of keep
Yeah.
that baby face up and whatever feud he goes into next.
But anyway, happy for LA Knight. We'll probably see where his next challenger lies. Most likely, probably a Carmelo or an Andrade. Okay, so also we had a new WWE Women's Champion. The Queen of the Ring is now the queen of the whole show. Nia Jax. Will, you called this one. I got this one wrong in our predictions episode. Nia Jax beats Bayley clean to win the women's title. Tiffany Stratton came out afterward, teased the cash in, but they are a unified team here. I was okay with the decision after the SummerSlam. I watched the post show, and I thought that was the most likable. Nia Jax, when she's not in character, is the natural baby face. She's really likable. She's a really good girl, like a sweet girl. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. I think in hindsight, this was the right decision. Bayley's title reign was stale. It was boring. I don't know what they do from here. I'm assuming Bayley and I are going to continue their program for a little bit because what else are they going to do? But really, Bayley needs a shakeup.
Yeah, Bayley does need a shake. I think her losing the title is key. I love this. I'm really glad I was right on this because I feel like this is kind of what the SmackDown Women's division needs right now. Is they need kind of like a monster heel champion. I love that Tiffany came out, teased the cash in, but then was ultimately taken out, but then still celebrates with Nia. So you do have that Nia Tiffany dynamic. And I think what's going to happen, you mentioned the post show press conference because really, and that what you said is very true. I do think Nia Jax has done so much work to get to this point. Like they've wanted to make, I think they've wanted to make her the world champion, and they did at some point, right? Then she won at WrestleMania 34.
Yeah,
but like I feel like this was really like her moment to like be like, I am the women's champion. I'm at the top of the division. She's arrived, and she's put in so much work to get so great over these past few years. I'm glad that it all came to fruition at SummerSlam. And now you have this interesting storyline with Tiffany having Money in the Bank. I think with these performances that she's going to have versus, now you have Bianca Belair who could go after her, Jade Cargill. Like those are two already tailor-made matches for her once they get out of the program with the nasty European people.
Yeah. Yeah, on a holy union. Come on.
Yeah, sure. And then you can also like, I mean, you could throw in Chelsea Green wherever you want, and I'll be happy. So if you want to do that and kind of make Nia a little more likable, I think ultimately what's going to happen is even though she's going to be this dominating monster heel, she's going to get over kind of slowly as a baby face, just for it to be taken away by Tiffany Stratton.
And I can't wait for that to happen. But it's not going to be quick.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to take a few shows for sure.
Yeah, I could see if. I really do think that there's money on the table for a Tiffany Stratton Charlotte Flair match. But if they don't do that at WrestleMania, I could see them doing this till WrestleMania and having Tiffany Nia at Mania.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so great job for Nia. Big milestone in her career. I like the union between her and Tiffany. Bayley needs a new direction. So I guess we'll have to wait until on SmackDown what they do from that, where they go. Another new champion at SummerSlam that was crowned. We finally got it right. Braun Breaker is now the Intercontinental Champion. Let's go.
Come on. Let's go. We did it, Jason.
It happened. We got it wrong at Money in the Bank, but we got it right at SummerSlam, and that was the more important show anyway. So looking at you. Great. I mean, Braun deserved this. They didn't really have much to do on Raw. They announced that they will have a follow-up match, a rematch, 2 out of 3 falls next week on Raw. I guess we fully expect Braun to retain, and I assume in some way it will further Sammy's next storyline, which I assume will be him teaming with Jey Uso. But what a moment for Braun Breaker at SummerSlam.
Oh, dude, I was so pumped for this. This is one of 2 matches. We'll get to the other match where this happened, where I did not take into account the location of SummerSlam into like playing a factor into the match. They're in the dog pound.
Oh, yeah.
They're at Cleveland Brown Stadium. Of course he's going to win the title. No, but of course you're going to have fans chanting, hoo. Anyway, they're going to be all into it. So, of course, that's the spot where Braun Breaker wins the Intercontinental Championship. I mean, I'm just glad. Like, the match was great. I think Sammy and Braun have really good chemistry, and that's something you could run back whenever, and I'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm into it. Now Braun has this mid card title, and you got a great lineup of mid carders on Raw, some beefy boys. We had the return of Ludwig Kaiser. We had
Yep.
we have Sheamus, Pete Dunne, Ilya
Yep.
Dragunov. We'll get to Bronson Reed later, who just
Yeah.
absolutely stole the show in my opinion for Raw. But they have a great division there that Braun can just go after, feed, have great matches, and it'll
Yep.
really boost Braun's stock in WWE as well as whoever he faces. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be some great stories to tell over the next few months with Braun as Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah. No, I like you stole the words out of my mouth. He's got no shortage of people to go up against. He's going to have a bunch of great matches for the rest of the year. I fully expect, especially under the Triple H era, whose calling card has really been long title reigns, I fully expect him to hold this title through WrestleMania. I don't think he'll be dropping this bad boy anytime soon. I don't think he's going to break Gunther's record, but he's going to threaten it.
Exactly. And the match I'm looking forward to the most, if he does hold on to this title into next year, Braun Breaker versus John Cena. What? John Cena gets that Intercontinental Championship shot. I think it's part of the tour. Even if he doesn't win it, I think he's going to go after it at least once. And I think there's no better champion to have when he goes after it than Braun Breaker.
No, I agree. That is the one title Cena's never won in his career. So if they wanted to go that direction, I think they could. I personally don't think they will do it because I just don't think Cena, who's going to have ultimate creative say over everything he does in this run, I don't think Cena is the type of guy who's going to be like, I'm going to ruin Braun Breaker's momentum just to get a selfish check the box in my career. I don't think he needs it. I don't
think Cena's winning. I think they do the match and then Braun wins. But I think Cena's motivation for the match is that he wants the Intercontinental Championship. He's going to lose and be like, okay, maybe that wasn't meant for me.
That I can see. That I would be on board
that's kind of my pitch for it. I wouldn't have Cena win Braun Breaker.
Okay, cool. Then we're on the same page again.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, a great moment for him. Sammy, they teased on Raw that him and Jey Uso are probably going to link up again soon and go after the Judgment Day. So we will see there, but awesome for Braun Breaker. We had one more title change hands at SummerSlam, and that was the World Heavyweight Championship. The King of the Ring, the Ring General, Gunther.
Nice. You did a good job with that.
Thank you so much. Destiny, it came a knocking at SummerSlam. He beat Damian Priest to win the world title with some help of a scoundrel, Finn Balor, turning on his best buddy in the Judgment Day. Like I've said in this podcast before, Gunther is my number one guy in WWE. I think he's the best. We already said that we kind of teased, but on Raw, we now know his new challenger will be Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin. I think it's fun. He is Austrian. He's got a lot of German motifs.
It's all the same to them,
Yeah,
we're just a bunch of nationalists, patriotic.
Randy Orton's is like, you're German. We're in your home country, and I'm like, he's not, but it's fine. But either way, him and Randy's going to be a great match at at Bash in Berlin. I thought his win at SummerSlam was much deserved, but the bigger story out of it, obviously, is what's going on with Judgment Day.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Priest had a great showing actually in this championship match. Like, this is as good as you're going to get for someone who's losing the championship.
Yeah.
Looked absolutely great. And then obviously Finn coming out costing him. What I loved about that moment was when they showed the replay of Finn putting the leg on the rope. And then you just cut to Damian Priest looking at the Titantron, being like, as if he just watched the replay with everyone else. And then being like, oh my God, you did that. And then Finn having that, sly grin on his face. I thought this was all well done. Damian Priest getting distracted, trying to choke Finn Balor like he's Bart Simpson. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then ultimately Gunther being like, I got to take advantage of this as soon as possible. Gets him in that sleeper hold. And man, does this title look great on Gunther or what? He just really feels like a world champion.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because they brought this up on Raw. They mentioned how Gunther, we don't know how long he's going to hold it because he's held the UK title for 700, 800 days.
Every title reign he's had has been more than 600 days.
Right. Which almost makes me it's just reverse psychology in wrestling. I'm like, does Gunther maybe not hold on to this title as long as we all think? Is there going to be a shock winner? I think he's going to win his first few title defenses, but I think there's going to be a few challengers where we're like, I wonder if this is it for Gunther. But ultimately, that's going to add to the drama. And I think that's what I love about having
Yeah,
Gunther as champion. And the fact that they mentioned that, it's going to be like, okay, well, we think Gunther's going to steamroll through this World Heavyweight Championship run until WrestleMania.
yeah,
Give us some challengers where we're like, oh, like maybe this is where, it comes to an end, especially if you throw in a guy like Punk or Seth
yeah.
at some point at Gunther, because then you could be like, oh, well, maybe they give the title to one of these guys going into their program for WrestleMania,
Right.
because that's obviously, I think, the ultimate direction for WrestleMania is Seth Punk, because they wanted to do it last year.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I could also see Seth Gunther. Um, yeah, that's the beauty of where we are in wrestling right now, specifically in WWE, is that it's all making sense, it's all clicking, and there's so many challengers that are getting over and they're being booked strongly that there's so many directions it could go. I do think Gunther's going to hold on to the title for a long time. Um, I fully expect him to be the world heavyweight champion going into WrestleMania. That is my prediction. One person that we have a pretty good idea he's going to be facing along the way, someone we've already mentioned, it was reported that they are planning for a John Cena Gunther program.
Ooh.
So here's my money. Yeah, so I'm excited for that whenever that comes. I mean, he's debuting at the Royal Rumble. So I guess they didn't necessarily say it's for the world title, but if Cena's coming at the Royal Rumble, that could very well be your world title match. And
I'd
with,
love to see it. Yeah,
with the
I
story
mean,
being Cena chasing his record-breaking 17th.
right. That's a home run match to me, Gunther, John Cena. It has to happen at some point. Title, no title, whatever the case is, I'm in for Gunther and John Cena.
Yep. So super happy for Gunther. He's going to be a dominant champion. Once again, congratulations to the Ring General. And then also the other part of this match that we should really dive into is the whole Judgment Day implosion. We kind of touched on Finn costing Damian the world title and kind of starting that. Really, I guess they were already heels, but maybe so much the Damian Priest babyface turn. But then the other part of it from that show is Dominic Mysterio being the biggest old dirty bastard in WWE and helping Liv Morgan defend her women's world title against Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. So a lot of moving parts within the Judgment Day. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley are firmly the baby faces and no longer in Judgment Day. You now have Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and Carlito as the heels.
You're
Live
killing these
soon.
pronunciations, by the way.
Oh, dude, thank you so much. God, you're gassing me up today.
Carlito, I like that.
Carlito. And yeah, and then I assume we're gonna have Sammy and Jay kind of join the baby faces soon. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I mean the Dom reveal when he slides in the chair, but then he's
Yeah,
also like he knows what he did this time, because like before he would always make it seem like, oh man, I didn't mean to do this, whatever. When
right,
he
right, right.
slides in the chair, she hits the oblivion, and he just has a smirk on his face, like, nah, I meant to do that.
Yeah,
And then he confirms it by just having a make out sesh with Liv Morgan after the match. Rhea sold this great where she's like, whatever, or she was like pit, like her face was just like, what the hell? Like it was almost like she was like kind of like smiling to cope with it, but then like
mm,
broke down. Like it was very interesting facial expression to
yeah.
see, but she did a great job
Great
selling it.
acting, great acting, right? Yeah.
And then it led into, as you mentioned, now Finn turned on Damien, Dom turns on Rhea. We have this new Judgment Day, and it really amps up. I think it's funny because Damian Priest actually feels like a bigger baby face now that he's lost the title. And I'm like, now
Yeah,
I'm into Damian Priest as a baby. And I think that's kind of what he needed. I felt like it was hard to do
right,
the baby face turn when he was the champion, when he was on top. It's
right.
much better to do it when he's like chasing something.
No, I
And now
agree.
he's chasing after Finn Balor to try to, ruin him. And then you got Rhea by his side. I'm curious to see what the Berlin match is, because I don't know if they do Damian Finn right away. I think there's a lot of money to be made in the mixed tag going
I think
first.
that's what it is at Berlin.
Yeah. But do you think it's Finn Live or do you think it's Dom Live?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. I think it's Finn Liv.
Me too. I think it's Finn Live because I think Finn Live gets the win.
Yeah,
As that's the way you boost up the new Judgment Day. I think if they do Dom Live, then you're just gonna have it be Priest and Rhea just laying in on them, and then there's really no like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it would be a great moment, but I feel like you need to get this momentum for Judgment Day 2.0 or 3.
Mhm.
There's like a billion versions of the Judgment Day at this point. It's
Yeah,
like,
because I could see.
yeah,
Well, honestly, I could see a 6-man tag.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they
Oh,
could.
you think Jey Uso gets involved? Because he's
I
been involved in the loop.
I
Like, you
do.
think
I
it's
think
Jay, Damian, Rhea versus Dom, Finn, Liv?
potentially, I don't know if the women are in that at all. I think
Okay.
you could have a separate match, Rhea Liv rematch for the world title. And I think you could have a 6-man tag where it's Finn, JD, and Dominic versus Damian Priest, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso.
That could be interesting. I do like that there's all these combinations that you can go through. You don't have to immediately jump into the singles matches for
Yeah.
either one of the big feuds for the well, you
Mm-hmm.
have the Liv Rhea. I don't think they need to go to Liv Rhea part 2 just yet. I think you got to still, get people going
Yeah.
for that, like, because I think not, they could do it, but there's just so many possibilities that I feel like it would just be jumping the gun if they went right to Liv Rhea 2 or Damian Priest Finn at the next
Right.
show.
Yeah. There's a lot of directions you could go. I'm very happy Liv got the win here. I'm glad she was rewarded because she is doing the best work of her career. And Rhea's so over; she doesn't really need the title. She'll go. She'll get it eventually. If she doesn't have it by Mania, she'll win it back at Mania because she's in that. She's kind of in that old Charlotte Flair role, in my opinion, where or old Becky Lynch, or like she's a top female star. She's going to be in the top female matches at the biggest shows.
Yeah.
Um,
And she's solidified herself as that top star. Whereas Liv, I feel like she's becoming that top star, but you still want to have that momentum riding with her as champion.
yeah,
Because I think there's still, higher and higher places for Liv to go
I agree.
moving forward. And I also hope that this is finally a way to get Finn Balor back into that main event scene where we feel like we could take him seriously as a main eventer. Whereas he's kind of been like this upper mid Carter, second fiddle guy in the Judgment Day.
Yeah,
Hopefully this is his opportunity to, get to that level as well.
100%. All right. Anything else on the Judgment Day you want to talk about?
Um, Carlito, man.
What does he
What do
do?
you think? I'm curious to see what happens there. I mean, I know he's in the Judgment Day 2.0, but he is my favorite
Mm.
part of the Judgment Day. I just love any interact. I love the before SummerSlam. He just comes up to Damian Priest and he's like, heard you got some big matches tonight or something. It's like, like, of course they do. Like, it's just like stuff like that is just so
Yeah,
funny to me.
that's why I think he
Yeah.
eventually is actually going to side with Damian Priest to become a babyface. I
Okay.
think he's too funny because I think it gives him something to do if he's kind of like the foil to JD McDonough.
Sure. I mean, that's another thing to speculate about. Ultimately, I'm very into what they're doing with the Judgment Day. It is crazy to think about. This was going to be like my ultimate point, where the Judgment Day was just like 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and how they were just kind of like nothing happening faction.
Yeah,
And they, then they get Dom, they get a little momentum, and then, they start adding other pieces. Damian Priest gets the Money in the Bank. And slowly but surely over these 2 years, you've made it so that the Judgment Day finally imploding is like one of the hottest storylines you have going in
yeah,
WWE right now. So kudos to WWE on this like long-term build from Judgment Day going to like lower card faction to really hot main event type angle.
yeah, for sure. I feel like there's one other match from SummerSlam.
Hello? The biggest match on
Oh,
SummerSlam?
right, yeah, I forgot. Yup,
Come on. We got to talk about this.
we got to
CM
talk
Punk
about
and
it.
Drew.
Take the lead, Will.
All right, CM Punk versus Drew. This match, and this is going to be a controversial take. I already know it because I've already seen some of the feedback. This is my favorite match of SummerSlam by far.
Shocking.
I know, what a shocker. And it had nothing because like there were some great matches with in-ring quality wise.
Yes.
Like I love the Liv Rhea match was really great in the ring. We mentioned Sammy Braun. Even Nia Bailey was like, okay, I could get into this. And I love Priest Gunther as well. Punk and Drew just told such a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
Just the emotion that was going through the match. This being CM Punk's first televised singles match in over 10 and a half years. And Seth Rollins did a great job as a special guest referee. They teased the SummerSlam 97 spot, which, was a great nod to the fans who were
I also saw
speculating
something
about
online
that.
they came intentionally dressed as their parts for
Yeah.
SummerSlam 97, which I thought was a very like wink and a nod to the audience who are like everybody was like, oh, that's the finish. And they were kind of like, yeah, we know that's what you think is going to happen.
Right. They did the nod. I'm glad they didn't fully go into it,
Yeah.
but they did tease it for all the people that were speculating that.
Mm.
And yeah, Seth's outfit was unbelievable. people are like, oh, they're fighting over a bracelet. Why are they fighting
Yeah.
over a bracelet? It's more than a bracelet. That's what's great about
Speak
this
on it,
feud.
Will.
It's more than a bracelet. It's about his family. It's his representation of what Punk loves most. And it's also, this is what people need to understand about CM Punk, why he's such a great character. Because this is a guy who's 44, 45 years old. This is a guy who gets hurt all the time. This is a guy who's clearly in the ring, has gone down in quality, like his work, in ring quality. Let's just be honest. It hasn't been what it was a decade ago, which is natural if you take a break from wrestling for 7 years and come back. And even in AEW, I thought he was perfectly fine in the ring, but clearly he wasn't at that level that he was when he left. So take all that into consideration and the fact that Punk still thinks he's the best in the world. He calls himself the best in the world, which right then and there pokes holes in everything he does, because you can clearly point to he gets hurt a lot. He's not the best in-ring worker, but because his ego is so grand and he has and obviously the people feed into that by chanting CM Punk, CM Punk. And they really do try to I feel like they kind of force it a little too much
A little bit.
when they do it. But in Baltimore, they loved it. They were eating it up. And we'll get into that in the Raw review. But that's what's so great about the CM Punk character, is because he's really not the best in the world, but he truly believes that. But he's also got such a fragile ego. That's part of the character. People think that's who CM Punk is. Right. Part of the character he plays on TV is the fragile ego. And we saw that when he has Drew in the Anaconda Vice, but he sees the bracelet and he's like, I need to get this bracelet. That means more to me than winning this match. When Seth takes the bracelet, and he's really just taking it to get it out of the way in the match, so it's not causing any more distractions. But ultimately, it's the biggest distraction, because when Punk has Drew in the GTS, he sees Seth with the bracelet, and he's like, "What are you doing? Like, are you trying to mess with me right now?" Yeah. And this was after Seth missed a visual pin. Then Drew knocks down both Punk and Seth. Punk gets another GTS. Seth misses another pin that CM Punk gets. And at this point, Punk completely loses it. And Seth's trying to talk some sense into him. But obviously, he hates CM Punk. So he's like, It's not always about you, asshole. And then Punk hits him with the GTS and says the best line. He says, "It's not always about me, but it's never been about you." And that's just Punk completely snapping on Seth Rollins. Ultimately runs into a low blow, Claymore. Drew McIntyre gets the 1-2-3 pin. And that recap, by the way, is exciting, just like the match was. And it's not boring, Anna C. DeMarco of Wrestling Purists. So please, everyone, go back and watch this match. It is absolutely phenomenal. The storytelling is great. The drama of this match is the reason why I love wrestling in the first place. It brought me back to the drama of Punk and Cena at Money in the Bank. Just not everything is about the moves and this great athletic spot. It's about the notes in between, the facial expression, the story. Why are these people mad at each other? Why did these people hate each other? I thought this was an absolute home run, and especially because you're not going to get those super high in-ring quality matches from Punk at this age in this stage of his career. So lean into the story elements that you're telling over the past 6 months with this Drew Punk storyline. And now you're also starting to heat up more the Punk-Seth feud that's ultimately going to culminate at WrestleMania, in my opinion, or whenever they do it. Whew. All right. Take over, Jason.
I thought that was great. It was a great match. I was surprised Punk lost in the end. I really did think that he was going to get the win, and we were going to continue the storyline of Drew continuing to be screwed. But I see what they're doing. They kind of flip the tables a little bit, and they kind of address this a little bit later on the post show. But the whole story with Drew and Punk up to this point has been that Drew is so focused on CM Punk that he's taking his eye off the prize. And that's kind of what happened. And then that's what happened to Punk. And that's why he lost, because he took his eye off the prize, being the win. So I like that. And now Drew's got a little bit of arrogance about him, because he got one victory over CM Punk and he thinks it's over. And so now he's getting a little comfortable. This story is definitely not over. I'm excited to see where the Punk and Drew of it all go, because it's definitely going to continue for a couple more months here. But the Seth of it all is very interesting, because on Monday Night Raw, we got Seth's new program. And I don't think it's one nobody really saw coming, but I think people are really excited for. You talk about star-making performances. Bronson Reed, man, came in on Monday Night Raw, attacked Seth Rollins, hit him with 6 tsunamis. They had the coughing up blood spot, which I thought was a needed element to this because if you're going to sell an attack like that, you can't just be laying there like everybody else. I think the blood was a huge, huge thing. And yeah, man, I mean, Bronson Reed has been one of those guys who's been toiling in the mid card since his return. He's never really had anything important to do. This is a huge, huge program for Bronson Reed. This is going to make or break his career, and if that's the case, he's off to a great start.
Yeah, I was curious to see how this whole thing would play out when Bronson Reed approached Adam Pearce backstage and was like, "You don't have a match for me. I'm going to go create my own moment." I'm like, okay, so he'll run out and it'll be some random mid card segment. I wasn't expecting much out of this. When he came out and attacked Seth, and I'm like, okay, is he just going to get laid out by Seth? Is this going to be one big joke? And he hits that first tsunami, and I'm like, okay, he's got to let you get. He got the one up on Seth. Then he goes up for another tsunami, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty sick. Goes up for a third tsunami, and this crowd is just absolutely eating it up. They're chanting, "This is awesome," whatever. Then he just repeat fourth tsunami, gets on the turnbuckle, fifth tsunami, and then he's like he's posing, whatever. Gets the sixth tsunami, and people are like, the people that are coming out are like flying. We saw the classic Jason Jordan, Arya Davari, or Sean Daivari, whichever Daivari, PD Williams was out there. You know the crew.
Yes.
I thought this was just a home run segment. Like, they do attacks so often on Monday Night Raw, and most of the time it's like, okay, we get it. Yeah. This just having Bronson Reed repeatedly tsunami Seth Rollins, and people be like, no, what? And then finally they have to like get Seth out of the ring just so that Bronson Reed will finally stop tsunamiing Seth Rollins. I just thought this was a great way to build up a new star. I think people are talking about this. People are really into this. The Baltimore crowd was on fire for this segment. So for for such a huge risk of like putting a guy that you've kind of not been doing much with and putting him into a main event scene with Seth Rollins, I thought this was an absolute banger of a segment.
Yeah, and much deserved. Seth really needed something to do. He didn't even have his own match at SummerSlam because he's kind of been, they want to get to Seth Punk eventually, but before we get there, he needed something. He's got something now. I hope Bronson's got to get the win, right? The first time they go one-on-one.
I would like to see it. I think that's how you carry this momentum through, especially after such a home run segment. You definitely need Bronson Reed to win. And I think it's still so early in that build up to like Seth and Punk that if you have Bronson beat Seth, like in the first match, like it's not going to really derail Seth. It's not going to lower Seth's stock. It's just going to boost up Bronson Reed, which is exactly what you want to do out of this feud. I'm hoping it's not a case of like, so this was brought up. I forget where this was brought, but like the Shinsuke Nakamura feud. Like, I hope it's not like the Shinsuke Nakamura feud where like you had some hot segments with Shinsuke, but then Seth just beats him 3 times. And then,
I was going to say, I was like, I don't even remember that.
Exactly. It was like last year, like when Seth was world heavyweight champion and they did a couple pay-per-view matches at like Payback, Fastlane.
Don't even remember.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I hope this is more memorable than that. It's not just a filler feud for Seth going into WrestleMania season.
Right. No, it was great. I mean, you can't ask for more from Bronson Reed. Seth finally has something to do. I assume the first match will be at Bash in Berlin. If I had to guess, that will probably be on the card. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Loved it.
Couple other things to talk about from Monday Night Raw. Just to wrap up real quick, we got the debut, finally, of Odyssey Jones, who seemed to align himself with the New Day, attacking the Authors of Pain. I thought he looked great. I was not familiar with your game, Odyssey Jones. I don't know who you are, but seems like a natural fit to the New Day. However, it was very clear in the body language that Xavier Woods was not exactly thrilled about Kofi Kingston's alignment with Odyssey Jones and not telling him. So I know they said they were never going to break up the New Day, but there's starting to be a real story here that I'm excited for to see where it goes, because it is not all sunshines and rainbows and unicorns for the New Day anymore.
That's right. And I think Man, it's so funny to see. When I saw Odyssey Jones, I'm like, no way. Like they finally did it. Cause I remember him
Yeah.
being drafted, not even in this year's draft,
Yeah.
last year's draft to Monday Night Raw, and we just never saw him.
Yeah.
So for him to come out and this segment of actually like adding some interesting elements to this whole New
Mhm.
Day versus Final Testament feud, which I just think has been
Yeah,
just an
it's
absolute
filler.
snoozer over the past few months. I think this injects a little life into it. And I did love Xavier Woods' performance in this because he was like, okay, like, I appreciate you helping us out, but like, you didn't tell me about this. And Kofi
Yeah.
was explaining, oh no, when I was in rehab, I saw this guy at the performance center. He said he could help out, whatever. And then I really thought there was like a little tease of something when Big Odyssey called himself or Odyssey Jones called himself the Big O. And I was like,
I didn't
okay.
catch that.
Yeah, there's like a little slight thing, and Xavier Woods kind of had a look to him like, okay. So I'm curious to see where this goes. I think
God, could,
Xavier Woods is great in these type of storylines because I remember like one of the storylines that really jumped out to me as like Xavier Woods being phenomenal at storytelling was when New Day fought the Wyatts all those
mhm.
years ago at Battleground, and like Xavier Woods was like Kofi and Big E were kind of joking around, and Xavier Woods is like, no, we have to take this seriously, and like if we don't take this seriously, I don't know how long the New Day is going to last. And of course,
Right.
fast forward 8 years later, they're fine, but
Yeah.
it did add. I love the elements of like Xavier and Bray in the ring when they would interact. I think this could add like a similar vein of like Xavier Woods being able to tell a story while he's in the ring and just
Mhm.
add a little layers to his character rather than him just being this guy who comes out, throws out a couple disses, plugs up, down, down,
Mhm.
and then, has a match that ultimately is kind of lower card filler.
Yeah. That he
This will add
loses.
depth to the character. And then you got people wondering as we approach the 10-year anniversary of the New Day, does the New Day make it to 10 years or is
Wow,
this
it's been 10
ultimately going to
years.
implode? Yeah. It's coming. That Xavier Wood, you definitely have to check this out. There was like a Raw exclusive uh promo that it was like a YouTube exclusive promo with Xavier Woods, and he was talking about how no one single person can try to disband the New Day or whatever. And he keeps
Mhm.
repeating that, like not one person can disband the New Day. So I think that's got to play into something later on. And of course, with everything that's happening, I'm glad they added a little bit of life into this storyline
Yeah.
because there's the one storyline on Raw. Well, there's another one, but there's this one storyline on Raw was kind of weak to
Yeah.
me, and now it's got some life into it. And they finally debuted Odyssey Jones, who did look great.
Yeah. He looked great. It was a great spot. I like what they're doing here. Xavier Woods is a great actor. Man, if he's cleared, the money for Big O versus Big E. Could you imagine that return pop, even if he's not in the ring?
I
Oh
think he has to, whether he's cleared or not, he has to somehow get involved
yeah,
in this storyline at
they
some
can't just
point.
ignore it.
Right.
So I'm excited to see Big E return. Um, Also on Raw, a couple other things real quick. They teased. They had the Awesome Truth versus Theory and Waller. I think Theory and Waller might be on Raw now, which they need because did nothing on SmackDown. I mean, they were tag champions, but they lost. They were going nowhere. Anyway, point is, Miz kind of teasing that he's getting a little frustrated with R-Truth, which can you blame him? So we might be getting heel Miz again soon.
Okay.
Which, yeah,
That's fine. I mean, yeah, you could go either way with it. I feel like I
yeah,
was kind of getting into Miz as a baby face with him being with R-Truth. I don't think, by the way, I don't think A-Town Down Under's on Raw. I think this was like one of those, I think they're treating Raw after SummerSlam like Raw after Mania, where like you could have people from SmackDown show up and do
yeah,
like these little things. I think the Gunther Randy thing is just like a thing they want to do to get out of the way for the King of the Ring stuff and then just
yeah.
move on. And I think they're just like, all right, well, we played off the A Town Down Under, or we're playing off the stuff that happened at SummerSlam with A Town Down Under and Jelly
Oh,
Roll.
gotcha.
So I feel like this was just kind of like, okay, this is a good
Right.
funnel. If they do want to do the Miz heel turn, this is a good way to get a win for A Town Down Under and then also catapult the Miz R-Truth feud. Also wanted to note this because I saw some people complain about it. I thought Jelly Roll was fine on SummerSlam. I thought he had a good performance.
Nobody is asking Jelly Roll to be a good wrestler. That's not what he does. He's he's,
Right.
he's a great musician who's also incredibly obese and out of shape. He did his best.
Right, exactly. And for musical performances at
Yeah.
wrestling shows. I thought he did a great job. And
Yeah.
so, and people like one of my friends texted me, he's like, why didn't they do the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match instead of having Jelly Roll perform? And I'm like, dude, like they got the main event of SmackDown. It would have been lost in the
Yeah.
shuffle if they just appeared on SummerSlam and had like a throwaway tag
And they needed the
match.
bloodline to be part of the main event.
Right. And then there would have been 5 title switches
Yeah.
on SummerSlam, which I'm glad they did the 4, but I feel
Yeah.
like let's not load up the show with just title changes.
Yeah. So anyway, Miz planting seeds to become a heel maybe soon, which is where he's the best. And then finally, we ended Monday Night Raw with the in-ring debut of the Wyatt Six. It was Eric Rowan, Dexter Loomis, and Joe Gacy versus the American-made tag team, Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. My big takeaways from this were the music needs work. I know they tried to do a little bit of the throwback to Bray Wyatt's old music, but it was too choppy. It went from like one song to another, back to another song. Like just stay consistent. It was kind of distracting in my opinion. I like that Uncle Howdy had the rocking chair again. Kind of this whole thing kind of feels like a tribute band almost to just Bray Wyatt. You like a cover band almost. So I don't know where I truly don't know how sustainable it is under Triple H. It's got the most legs. It could possibly, but they're really gonna have to work on it because spooky gimmicks in 2024 is really hard to work. And I don't know where they go from here once they're done with American Made. So I don't know. They've got some stuff to prove in my eyes. My biggest takeaway from the entire main event of Raw was damn Joe Gacy is good. Holy crap. I was not familiar with your game, sir. He is really good in the ring. And he was the breakout star of that entire match, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more positive about this group. Again, their entrance was just Shatter from Bray Wyatt, the last entrance theme he came out to. So, and I do love that song.
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily fits this group. I think
Yeah.
they could go with a different theme. I do love the song though, so I'm never gonna hate on that
Right.
song. I think it's the best Bray Wyatt theme. But yeah, I was impressed with how this match laid out because it's almost like a double debut. Because you had the American Made making their trios debut alongside, the Wyatt Six, which is really the focus of this match. But I thought both teams looked great and did a great job in their roles. I thought, and you mentioned like it's hard to do a spooky gimmick. I think this is how you do it, where you have Dexter Loomis doing his hand crawl thing, which isn't anything like new. It's just part of who Dexter Loomis is. You have Joe Gacy doing his, crazy, creepy stuff, which was part of Joe Gacy in NXT. So that's not anything new either. But both guys looked great in the ring. You didn't have the lights go out and then smoke and then, like a demon appears from under the ring or something crazy or like someone's set on fire. Yeah, well, yet. Yeah, well, but I'm just going to go. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt of what I just saw on Raw. Like, I'm going to go base it off that. And if it's just that this is an awesome trio, and I also loved Rowan getting in there, huge babyface spot. I think this guy's just an unbelievable babyface after everything he's been through, given the tribute to Brody Lee. It's like, how can you boo this guy? This guy's just like, you just want to cheer him when he goes in there and he's just taking out everyone.
Yeah.
And, I thought this was a great showing for the Wyatt Six. It was a standard trios tag match. You had the heat, you had the 1 minute of wrestling going into commercial. Nothing crazy in the ring, but it was definitely a good way to spotlight each of the characters in this group. A solid debut for the Wyatt Six. I am curious to see where this goes after the American Made stuff, but we'll see because we also still have to see Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable tie it up. And so that's another big question mark on this is how is that going to play out? And then, we'll see where this group goes forward. I'm sure at some point they'll interact with Braun Strowman.
Oh, true. Which is great.
That'll be good stuff. And then after that, like really, you got a whole list of people on Raw that you can kind of open this thing up to. Does Alexa Bliss come into play at some point? So there's a lot of stuff to look forward to with the Wyatt Six. And I think this was another great step towards, whatever they're building to with this new faction.
No, I agree. I thought it was great. Anything else from Raw or SummerSlam you want to touch on, Will?
Oh man. On Raw, let me see what was going. I think Raw I'm pretty good on. I the big thing was Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
We did mention Punk and Drew. I guess, are going to rekindle that feud before they go into the Punk Seth stuff. Obviously, Drew still has the bracelet, so we'll see
Yeah.
what happens with that. Um, Damian and Rhea standing tall. We kind of touched on that. So yeah, I'm pretty set on that. We had the return of Ludwig Kaiser, which we
Which was
briefly
good.
mentioned.
Good
I do
for
like him and Gunther being back together,
yes.
and now you can get back into the Sheamus
What the
Ludwig
heck happened to
Kaiser.
Giovanni Vinci? Where is he? Is he still in the
They
company?
I they I think they're done with him in
Yeah.
Imperium. Didn't he get like kicked out of Imperium at some point?
Yeah, yeah. Like
Okay.
Kaiser turned on him or whatever. But
Yeah.
I didn't think he was that bad.
No, I just think it was tough to kind of factor him into. I
Like
think
what was his
Imperium had this
role?
certain look. Yeah, exactly. He was just the third guy in Imperium, and they
Yeah.
didn't really have another better third guy to replace him with. So it's just do the Ludwig Kaiser Gunther pairing, and we'll go from there.
Which eventually will be money when those two work each other.
Oh yeah,
Um, all right, so let's talk about some. We'll wrap up the show talking a little bit about AEW and what's going on there. We got the big All In show on August 25th, so coming up shortly. Not a ton of stuff from AEW this week. I guess your big headline out of all of this is we got some stakes for this AEW World Championship match at All In. Swerve Strickland defending the title against Bryan Danielson after Bryan Danielson won the Owen tournament. And now we know after Dynamite this week that if Bryan Danielson loses the title, he will retire from in-ring competition, allegedly. Um, that's definitely certainly a good way to give stakes to this match that otherwise kind of felt like, why are we doing this? I really think this could be it for Danielson.
I think in a world where it just sucks that
Mm,
some retirement matches aren't really retirement matches, so like you can't really depend on wrestlers like giving their full word when they're like,
yeah.
if I lose this, this is I'll retire completely from in-ring competition.
Mm,
I just think from following Bryan Danielson's career, he's a guy who like I can trust his word. Like I
yeah.
believe that if he does lose this match, he's done with in-ring competition. I It does definitely give me some doubt because originally I was like, okay, I think Swerve's winning, and then
Yeah.
we'll get like a real retirement match or like a go away match because he was saying how when his daughter turns 7, he's going to give up competing in the ring full time,
Yeah.
meaning that at some point he wouldn't mind coming back for like a match or two during
Yes.
the year, like given the situation. But the fact that he's putting on the line, like, I will not wrestle again if I don't win the world championship, I do start to think like, I think, I think Brian could win. And then
Yeah.
you're not going to give him a long title reign, obviously,
No.
after this, but it is All In. I think it's a great way to give him that moment, like a nice, happy ending to All In. I don't think you end All In with, the kind of tweener guy beating Danielson to retire him. So unless they main event with Osprey and MJF, which I guess I could see them doing that. But I prefer it be Swerve Danielson as the main event, and then you
Yes.
have Danielson get that nice big moment. And I still think there'll be people like, though they could really play up this match where there's moments that you think, oh no, this is it for Danielson.
Right.
And if they do end up deciding to go with Swerve still as champion and he's ultimately the one to retire Bryan Danielson, then you could still have a great moment in the ring where Danielson kind of takes it all in. It's like, this is my last moment, kind of like HBK Taker
Right.
from 26, which wasn't the retirement match, but okay. So I hope,
Should have
but
been.
again, whatever happens, if Swerve does beat Danielson, I just hope that that is actually Danielson's last match and he doesn't go back on his word. For me, being a Bryan Danielson fan, I don't want to see him retire right now. I would love to just see him. I'm totally cool with him stepping away from full-time competition. I think he benefits more from being like a special
Yes, I agree.
wrestler, a part-time wrestler where you bring him in every once in a while to be like, okay, this wrestler has a lot of momentum. He's saying he's one of the best in the world. Well, now you got to prove it against one of the best.
Right.
That
No.
fits better than just having him on weekly television doing wrestling matches because he likes wrestling, which I have enjoyed. Don't get me wrong. I've enjoyed it over the past few years, but I think now we're at the point where this is kind of the end for his full-time career. So I do think You get him as a champion. You get a couple more months of full-time Danielson as champion. Then he loses it. And ultimately, that's the farewell of, okay, my full-time in-ring career is now coming to an end.
I could see this main event of All In going either way. Honestly, I think you very easily can have Swerve beat him to retain, leave him in the middle of the ring. You give Bryan Danielson this great moment in the middle of Wembley Stadium to say his goodbye, and that's it. And I think that's fine. I think if Bryan Danielson loses and retires, it is a huge loss for AEW, who really can't afford to take too many more losses because they do not have a ton of stars. For as much as their roster is large, they do not have a lot of star power, in my opinion. CM Punk leaving hurt them. Kenny Omega being on the shelf hurts. Losing Bryan Danielson. Adam Cole's has been out for like a year. They had all of these big stars at one point. And I think it's just a product of 50-50 booking and oversaturating that they're not really like Will Ospreay and MJF are your only two, like, and Swerve, I guess, is they're really trying to push a Swerve, but I don't know. Anyway, point is, I think I could go either way. I could also see Hangman playing in a role in the main event because we know that his match with Swerve is coming up, which we presume will be All Out, which is just a few weeks later. I could see him playing a role in the main event, costing Swerve the world title. And then you give Bryan Danielson his world championship. He's never won a belt in AEW. He's champion for a little bit. And he goes on a little bit of run. I could really see it going both ways. Point is, I think if he does lose, I think it would be a huge detriment to AEW. So I think for their sake, I think they would like to keep it.
Yeah, I do like. I think having these stakes is exactly what kind of drama they needed to add to this match, because before, where I thought it was an obvious pick, now you have some doubt. I do think ultimately, whether he wins or not, he's going to do this championship run, and I think he'll just be out then at that point from being a full-time competitor. And then he, maybe he just takes special like every once in a while, if Tony Khan wants him in, he'll sign him on a quick contract, part-time, whatever. My top rope take for today, Jason.
All right, here we go. Big top rope take. Really thrilled.
You're going to like this one.
Okay.
By the end of 2025,
yes,
we will have seen Bryan Danielson versus John Cena in WWE.
Wow.
How about it?
Wow.
Bring him in. Bring him back, and he gets his one match against John Cena, the former lover of Nikki Bella and the current lover of Brie Bella. And you have them go at it.
Are they on the?
I just want to. I would love to see it one more time, because those two had some great moments in Total Divas and Total Bellas. And obviously, you have the SummerSlam 2013. That was great and all, whatever. But that is the real reason why I'd want to see that match. And it's also another like.
Could you imagine the promo for that match is like a bunch of clips from Total Divas?
Just John Cena going over the rules of the house, like your shoes at the door. Oh my goodness, it would be so great. And then you just have John Cena lean into that the whole match.
John Cena, Daniel Bryan, house rules.
I do, yeah. That would be so great. I do think though we will see Bryan Danielson in WWE at some point in the near future if he's going on a part-time schedule. I think he's going to do his full-time run, and then we're going to get a part-time run where, maybe he's just like an independent contractor guy where he just comes in 3 months, either brand, get him in a feud, and that's that.
I do think WWE would like to have Daniel Bryan and the Bella Twins on like Legends contracts and like, doing ambassador work for them. So they're going to return at some point. I don't think it'll be that soon. I could be wrong, because the whole meta of all of this is that I do think his contract is legitimately up very soon, which is the whole point. And I think he does see the writing on the wall that with AEW kind of going, and he's wrestled everyone he needs to wrestle.
Right.
So I could see it. I think that is definitely a top rope take.
I'm glad you like it. And you know what? You mentioned how AEW, they lost Punk. Omega's on the shelf. They lost Cody a while back. They've lost other people along the way. You got Adam Cole out, They could be getting maybe the biggest star in wrestling that they've ever had going to AEW. And I'm surprised this wasn't on your list. Shane McMahon coming over to AEW. It's the lethal injection that AEW needs to
Oh
bring
God.
chaos. Could you imagine? Could just hear me out here. If Shane McMahon does hop over and he joins the elite, oh my gosh, you have Shane McMahon, the best in the world. You have him next to Okada, and he's the best in the world, Shane McMahon. Oh my God, I would love it. You have Kenny come back, and then you tease Kenny and Okada, but Okada's like, no, 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 you need to face the best in the world. Shane McMahon. I think Shane McMahon is the exact type of chaos AEW needs to kind of get some interest going. And you don't have to go super crazy with it, but I think it would just be it's something where if Shane McMahon does join AEW, I'm locked in every Wednesday. And I'm like, what is Shane McMahon gonna do in AEW? Who knows how long it'll last? Who knows if long term it's like the biggest the biggest L AEW takes by bringing Shane McMahon over. But man, that would just be it would be one of the craziest moments to happen this year in wrestling. If we have a McMahon going to the McMahon built competition, man, that's crazy. It would just be wild.
It is so insane that I think just for honestly, AEW is in such a spot right now where like they really need the publicity and the eyes. And for that reason alone, I really could see them doing it. I also think there's something about a Shane McMahon Mercedes Moné pairing that I kind of really like.
Well, that's apparently who brought him and Tony Khan together. That's the mutual friend. So
yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah, I could see it, but God, it just feels like a bad idea long term.
I feel like there's definitely like a lot of risks you're taking by putting a Shane McMahon. But man, it's just like if AEW goes out in 3 years because of this, I'll take the hot 6 months it gets for Shane McMahon being a part of AEW because oh man, I think it's even again, it's definitely like a spark. Like you're gonna get hot for a bit. Can you carry that momentum like long term?
Yeah.
Who knows? Probably not. But man, I think AEW just needs something that'll boom, like get them back into where they were a few years ago. Yeah. And I think Shane McMahon would be he's like the only top name out there who would definitely give AEW that publicity it needs.
Oh God.
What a moment for wrestling. I just love that moment for wrestling.
I agree. I think it could happen as soon as All In. Man, what a trip that would be. What kind of parallel universe are we living in? Where this
and Tony would shell out the money for
100%. Yeah.
Oh, but just to have that pop oh my God, that would be the craziest. I think people would go berserk at all.
It would legitimately be it would legitimately be one of the craziest things to ever happen in the history of pro wrestling.
100%.
And for that alone, maybe it's worth it.
And the fact that Tony teased it, like when he bought Ring of Honor and he was like, there's no Shane. And then you could just have like Shane come out and be like, there's no more Tony.
Yeah.
It's just me.
What would his role though be? What, like legitimately you bring him in for the pop, right? But like, what's the role? What does he do on television?
He's the he's the guy, he's the backstage guy who's like, the elite have given me their EVP role. Like all of their power now belongs to Shane McMahon. So now it's Tony Khan and Shane McMahon are 50-50, kind of like Flair and McMahon were back in the day. Like we're partners, buddy.
Yeah.
And then you just have like the heel Shane McMahon versus obviously it'd be like Christopher Daniels or whoever, like whoever is that person for Tony Khan. But although I would like, it would be kind of funny to see Tony Khan like just he wouldn't have to say anything, but just like Shane McMahon just being like, "Come on, buddy, like, this is what you got to do." But like in like a threatening way, in like that threatening McMahon way, it's like this would be great for business,
Yeah. I kind of do love the idea of Shane with being part of the Leo League, but I just can't help but think it's such a dumb idea long term. But you know what? Screw it. Let's go for it. They need something fun. Oh my goodness. I can't get this like thought out of my head. I don't even remember the exact wording, but it's like the Vince McMahon promo from like 2002 before he brings the NWO into the WWE. He's like, I created this and now I'm going to inject it with a lethal dose of poison and kill my creation.
Oh man, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. So
that lethal dose.
Lethal dose. All righty. Well, what an episode. I know we didn't really get to talk too much about Will Ospreay MJF, but I really don't think there's too much there to talk about this week with it. All in, we'll have more to talk about in a couple weeks because All In is still a couple weeks away. But for right now, I think this is a good place to leave it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'll just say this, just as a hypothetical here, since we mentioned it. Shane and MJF in the same ring.
Oh,
That's
what
money to me as well.
promo?
Whether it's like, dude, that would just be like imagine the MJF style promo, but with Shane McMahon. Also, want to throw this out there
Yeah.
since there's someone out there who likes to call out fathers. Christian just
Oh
out
my,
there
but he's
with
not
Shane
dead yet.
McMahon. I, you know,
Yeah,
just
still.
everyone knows. Like he wouldn't even have to say anything. Christian could
Yeah.
just be backstage and walk by Shane McMahon and just be like, and then
Yeah.
everyone would just
Be
go
like,
nuts.
hey, how's your dad?
Yeah,
Oh my god. I love it. All right, you've convinced me. It's worth it, even if it kills the company.
sure.
So, all right. Well, what an awesome episode. Man, what an awesome week for wrestling. We're only going up from here. We got Dynamite tomorrow night, continuing all this hype to All In. We got SmackDown this coming Friday, where we assume we will see the return of Roman Reigns on television. What a week.
I'm excited for this upcoming. I feel like SummerSlam and also the Shane McMahon news, just on a lower note. But I feel like all of that stuff has definitely rejuvenated
Mm-hmm.
my interest in wrestling. So now I'm really hyped up to see what both companies have in store going forward.
Absolutely. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. So, all right, that does it for this week's episode of Top Rope Takes. Thanks again for listening. We will be back next week. Willie, thanks for being here, buddy.
Peace.
All right. Have a good one, guys.